The radio crackled, then went quiet. On a cold night in Northern California, police cruisers cut through the darkness near Lake Herman Road. Headlights swept across gravel, tall grass, and finally stillness. A car sat parked too neatly, its engine cold, its windows dark. Inside, two young people had been enjoying what should have been an ordinary moment. Now, there was only silence. By the time officers stepped closer, they knew something was wrong. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't random violence. There was no struggle, no chaos left behind, only precision. The kind of calm that unsettles seasoned investigators. The kind that whispers instead of screams. In the following days, rumors spread faster than facts. Across Vallejo, Benicia, and the wider San Francisco Bay Area, people talked in hushed tones. Parents warned their children. Couples stopped parking on dark roads. Police departments quietly compared notes, unsure of what they were dealing with. Because whatever this was, it didn't behave like anything they had seen before. Then the letters began to arrive. They weren't sent to police first. They were mailed to newspapers: San Francisco Chronicle, Vallejo Times-Herald, written in neat, deliberate handwriting. Inside were cryptic messages, strange symbols, and a demand that would change the investigation forever. The writer claimed responsibility. He called himself Zodiac. From that moment on, fear became organized. The reason the Zodiac Killer existed, at least in his own words, wasn't impulse or rage. It was control. He wanted attention. He wanted authority. He wanted to prove that law enforcement technology and public order were powerless against someone who understood how systems worked. This wasn't about reforming society. It was about silencing it. Police task forces expanded rapidly. Jurisdictions blurred together as investigators from different counties tried to cooperate, often tripping over one another. Evidence flowed in shell casings, witness statements, timelines, but none of it fit cleanly. Each crime scene felt isolated, yet connected by something intangible, a pattern without a face. Crossing into the Zodiac investigation meant being swallowed by it. Detectives stopped going home on time. Leads followed leads until they circled back into nothing. Suspects emerged, then faded. Alibis half-held. Timelines stretched thin. Once you were assigned to the case, it followed you. Life inside the investigation became rigid. Briefings, reports, evidence logs, endless repetition. The routine didn't bring clarity, it brought exhaustion. Days blurred, nights stretched longer. The killer stayed one step ahead, not by speed, but by patience. Stone walls didn't hold him. Procedure didn't slow him. Obedience to the rules only seemed to help him disappear. The ciphers were the most haunting part. Symbols mailed in neat grids, daring anyone to decode them. Some were partially cracked by civilians, others remained locked behind mystery. Investigators wondered if they were puzzles at all or simply another form of domination. Time passed, but answers didn't arrive. Witness memories changed. Evidence degraded. Reports were misfiled. Some physical items vanished entirely. The longer the case went unsolved, the more fragile the truth became. Erased time worked in the Zodiac's favor. Then came the moment that shook the task force. A letter arrived containing information only the killer could know, details never released to the public. Proof that he was watching the investigation, following the headlines, tracking the hunt for himself. But buried in the message was something else. A clue that suggested the Zodiac hadn't just been to the crime scenes. He had been closer to law enforcement than anyone realized. And if that was true, then the case wasn't just about catching a killer. It was about understanding how he had hidden in plain sight. Because the greatest danger wasn't that the Zodiac Killer was unknown. It was that he might have been seen every day and never recognized. The clue from the letter refused to stay quiet. Detectives passed it around the briefing room in silence, each reading the same lines again and again. The detail was precise, too precise. It referenced evidence handling procedures, how reports were logged, when information moved from one desk to another, what never made it to the press. The Zodiac Killer hadn't just followed the news. He understood the system. That realization shifted everything. Investigators began looking inward, not outward. Who had access to reports before they were public? Who moved freely between departments? Who could observe law enforcement routines without raising suspicion? Suspects multiplied, then collapsed under scrutiny. Teachers, veterans, journalists, police officers, ordinary men with ordinary lives and just enough proximity to chaos to make them dangerous. But proximity isn't proof. As years passed, the hunt lost its urgency and gained something worse: routine. Files were boxed, task forces downsized, leads were marked inactive, detectives retired, taking instincts and half-formed theories with them. The Zodiac didn't need to kill again. Time was finishing the job for him. Evidence aged badly. Paper yellowed. Ink faded. Witnesses died or forgot details they once swore they would never lose. The physical world moved on, while the case stayed frozen in the late 1960s and early 1970s, trapped in analog limitations. When DNA technology finally advanced enough to offer hope, the results were frustrating. Partial samples, contaminated envelopes, inconclusive matches. Each test promised resolution and delivered ambiguity instead. The killer had written often about the future, about collecting slaves in the afterlife, about never being caught. Many dismissed it as bravado. But what if it was calculation? The Zodiac didn't need escape routes or accomplices. He needed patience. He relied on bureaucracy, on human error, on the assumption that criminals panic. He did the opposite. He waited, and in waiting he won. The final confirmed Zodiac communication arrived, then silence. No farewell, no confession, no mistake, just absence. The kind that lets myths grow. Decades later, amateur investigators flooded the case. Books, documentaries, online forums. Everyone had a suspect. Everyone had a theory. The mystery became entertainment, then culture. But the truth remains stubbornly small and uncomfortable. The Zodiac Killer wasn't caught because he didn't behave like a monster. He behaved like a man who understood systems better than people. Someone who knew that prisons are built to contain bodies, not ideas. That investigations depend on continuity. That time, more than police, erases accountability. Some places survive by staying unnamed, and some killers survive by becoming stories instead of suspects. Today, the case files sit in archives, occasionally reopened when technology takes another step forward. Hope still flickers. A new match, a new lead, a new possibility. But the Zodiac Killer never needed closure. He needed silence. And as long as the case remains unsolved, that silence belongs to him. If the story stayed with you, you're not ready for the next one. Subscribe so you don't miss it.